Firstly, you need to understand the author's motivations for writing the 48 Laws of Power, and what better way to do that than from the man himself, Robert Greene.
Where the 48 Laws of Power came out from, so you quoted me, I had like 80 different jobs, probably more like 60, 65. But I saw all kinds of very deceptive games being played continually in the various different jobs I had. And I worked in every conceivable field. And I didn't see any kind of honesty about this dynamic in the human world. And it really kind of irritated me. All the self-help books were sort of describing a world that I never saw existed. You know, I saw people being very political, having egos and having problems with their egos. And I didn't see any books like they're kind of describing what I had encountered every day. So law number one is never outshine the master. And the idea is that if you try too hard to impress your boss or the person above you, you're liable to make them feel insecure. You're going to trip on their ego and something bad will happen to you, right? And so this seemed like the fact that people have egos and operate with egos and you have to be careful with them seems very clear to me, but I didn't find books out there that were describing it.
Next, you need to understand Robert Greene's definition of power. This will be crucial later on in the video.
I have a particular idea of power, so maybe I should explain that a little bit. My idea of power, it's not about this kind of grand thing of political or war or something. It's on a very individual level. And the idea for me comes from Nietzsche and his idea of the will to power, which he explains as every organism has the desire to expand itself, has a desire for expansion. And so I think that for human beings, the desire that we have this innate propensity for wanting to expand beyond our limits. We want to feel like we have some degree of ability to influence other people, that we can control our own career and learn more and develop greater skills and have more kind of power and influence in our life. The feeling that I cannot have any power or influence over my children, my spouse, my colleagues, my boss, my career in general is deeply, deeply unsettling for the human animal and causes all kinds of attempts at what I call negative power, passive aggression, etc., setting yourself up as a victim to kind of leverage power in a negative way. And so the problem is, a lot of this comes from Machiavelli, who inspired a lot of the 48 Laws. The problem is that we live in a world where this desire for some kind of power butts up against kind of codes of behavior that have gotten stricter and stricter and stricter, particularly in the 21st century, about what is acceptable, about what is politically correct. So we're supposed to appear to be these paragons of virtue, these paragons of fairness and democracy, etc. At the same time, we're all trying to angle for different degrees of power in our work, in our relationships, etc. And so because of that dynamic, we have to be extremely careful in this world. And I compare it to the courts of like Louis XIV, where all of the courtiers, if they're too overt in their power moves, the king will disapprove of them and will not banish them, but they'll be kind of excluded to the corner of the palace. And so the game was to be sort of indirect, to be polite and ingratiating, and if you had an enemy, to know how to kind of very quietly get rid of them.
So you might be wondering, how does this tie into Mr. Beast? The reason that this is so important to understand is, first of all, the laws of the book are compiled from historical examples over the past 2,500 years, meaning people back then didn't have a super clear understanding of leveraging power, but rather relied on their natural drive towards power and their intuition to gain it, much like Robert Greene stated. What I'm trying to say is that whether Mr. Beast has read the 48 Laws of Power, the Mr. Beast brand operates pretty much the exact same way as the courts of Louis XIV. With the courtiers being Mr. Beast's friend group and his employees, with Mr. Beast at the top being Louis XIV. And for you to clearly see this dynamic, I've compiled some of the most used laws among the Mr. Beast brand in the past few months of controversy. But first, we have to go back to where it all started, to the year 2018.